I don't understand y'all cats. First of all, there ain't enough of y'all to protest the goddamn UGAS and Spence fight.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's get into that, man. And there's some other dude talking about they boycotting the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight. I mean, the Errol Spence UGAS fight, because Earl is ducking Crawford. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, these niggas just, like, sit back and, you know what? Monday morning, we going to harass these niggas and make sure they talk. I think it's just some shit motherfuckers just want to talk about. They want to keep this shit going.
What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So today, in fact, over the last week, ever since Errol Scary Ass Spence officially ducked Terence Crawford to fight UGAS, Terence Crawford fans have essentially come out and are protesting now to boycott UGAS versus Spence. Now, me personally, I'm 100% backing this. However, today, all the funny style Errol Spence fans have come out from the LDBC, and as you could expect, they're back on their shill game. But I find it crazy, because guess what? After Crawford beat Porter, yeah, everyone was saying the same thing. The LDBC included. Jabba the Hutt, 78 IQ Sports TV, all them goofy dudes. They were saying, oh man, yeah man, I don't want to see no other fight. Crawford versus Spence is the fight. Well, it's Crawford versus Spence. That's what they were saying. And actually, at the time, I kind of gave them credit. I thought, you know what? We're all reading off the same hymn sheet here. 2-2s. The Spence and UGAS fight gets announced, and all of a sudden, they've all forgotten about how Crawford and Spence is the only fight, and now they're saying, oh man, this is the best fight ever. I can't believe it. We unified. We unified another belt. Now, me personally, yeah, as a person involved in boxing, I don't mind. If you genuinely were supporting Spence versus UGAS all this time, fair play. But what I don't understand is, you all came out and said, I want to watch Spence versus Crawford, no excuses. This is what came out of their mouth, the LDBC mouth. They were saying there's no excuses now because Crawford has left Bob Arum. But then Spence goes away behind closed doors, runs off. Don't forget, he ran out of the Crawford fight and ran straight to Al. I spoke to someone in Team Spence. In the car ride home, Errol Spence was on the phone to Al Heyman, begging him to get the contract done for UGAS, so that Crawford wouldn't have time to send an offer through. That's what I've heard. And what do we know? The fight got locked in super duper quick. Now, what I will say is, I'm disappointed in Terence Crawford now. And this, for me, this isn't a case of a clear duck. This isn't the case here where I wouldn't never sit here and tell you, yeah, that I'm 1,000% sure Errol Spence is ducking Crawford. I'm saying they're both funny style, but in terms of who's more funny style, well, guess what? Errol Spence has actually booked a fight. That's an action. Wait there a minute, Spence. How was you able to book a fight with UGAS, but you couldn't book a fight, or at least try to book a fight with Crawford? That's my problem here. Why didn't Spence even try? He's meant to be the A-side. Well, we know A-side are usually the ones who send offers. You're an A-side, but you didn't send an offer. But yet you're an A-side and you managed to perfectly and easily send an offer to UGAS. How does that work out? It's funny style behaviour. And that's what I've always said about these guys, yeah. Notice, all these guys, they always manage to fight bums A-OK. You never hear about no... And it amazing, though. Spence versus UGAS, we don't hear about no contract disputes, we don't hear about no problems. All we hear is the fight's done and locked in within half a day. But yet all the hard fights, all the risky fights, we hear, oh man, we on different sides of the street, and just zesty behaviour. And now you got the LDBC shilling about how Spence and UGAS is the only fight they ever wanted to see, and they can't understand why Crawford fans are mad. And they can't understand why Crawford fans are protesting. Let me tell you right now, I'm protesting too. Now, having said that, I mentioned earlier, this isn't giving Crawford a pass, because, to be honest, I haven't heard Crawford saying I've sent an offer, or whatever. Crawford should have finished his fight with Porter and then immediately tried to make moves, and made them public. Made public the moves he's making to make this fight. He hasn't done that, so he holds responsibility too. But the fact that Errol Spence ran off in record time and locked this fight in, that's the ultimate BITCH move. Yes, Spence, you're a big bubbly bitch. Bottom line. Because Crawford hasn't got a fight. Yeah, when someone books a fight, it's impossible at that point. By booking another fight, that means you're out of the game. It means it's now impossible. Who was the first one to make this fight impossible? Spence. And that's why I'm on his neck the most. And the fact that these funny style guys are justifying it. Oh, man, Willa, you know it's apples and pears. And, you know, Willa, this fight, ain't no one trying to watch this fight. But now the big rearrangement and the big excuses is that, oh, well, we want to see Undisputed. That fight deserves to be for Undisputed. And I've got a feeling, honestly, I've got a bad feeling that, I mean, I'm not sure about how great UGAS is, but all I'm saying is, if you know the history of the sport, yeah, especially recently, the history of the recent sport is that these guys inevitably end up losing. So I've just got a weird feeling that your man UGAS is going to beat Spence. Not because I think he's that great, but because that's how it normally goes. We get close, the fight kind of makes sense, and then the guy loses, and it's all fell apart. I mean, look at AJ and Wilder, look at AJ and Fury, it's all messy. Things never just get done, and that's why you can't wait for the perfect opportunity. Life isn't perfect, you got to get in there, and the thing is as well, this whole notion of Undisputed, back in the day, there was only 1 or 2 belts, so chasing 4 belts is irrelevant. Undisputed don't mean nothing, it's about the actual name, if that makes sense. For example, Canelo Alvarez, yeah, at 168, he didn't need to beat them guys. We all knew he was if that makes sense. Because there's so many belts now, inevitably there's going to be champions who are clearly not the best, but who have a belt. So Undisputed is more a principle, or it's more a fact. It's a fact that Alvarez was undisputed long before he had 4 belts. If that makes sense. Which means that the fact that UGAS has a belt is irrelevant. We know he's not the best one. So why are we bothering chasing that belt? Yeah? Crawford and Spence fight. And then the winner of that can circle back and go and beat UGAS. And at that point, no one cares what you do. And the way these funny style LDBC fruities have changed it all up. And now they're shilling for and trying to criticise Crawford fans. And you best believe everyone, and I'm saying it, everyone should boycott this fight. Don't buy the pay-per-view and don't turn up. Bottom line. And to be honest, I say the same about Crawford fights. If you ain't fighting who I want you to see you fight, boycott it as well. I'm being consistent, but like I said, the problem is here, or the reason I'm singling out Spence is the fact that he actually ran off and made another fight. And I wouldn't mind, yeah, fair enough, yeah. If Errol Spence had to come out and said, listen people, I've been trying to contact Team Crawford, I've been trying to make this fight for the last week or 2, and Crawford hasn't responded. Therefore, I had to move on to make the UGAS fight. If he said that, I'd say, you know what, fair play to you. Because you can only do so much, I get that. But guess what, Errol Spence ain't said none of that. He just ran off and weaseled his way into the UGAS fight. Like it's not, you know what I mean, one of them ones. It's embarrassing, to be honest. It's embarrassing the fact that Crawford himself said, there's no barriers now, I'm not with Bob. And Errol Spence, meanwhile, ran off to Al and made the UGAS fight in record time. Don't forget, people, Errol Spence hasn't fought in months, meaning that he could have had this UGAS fight locked in long time ago. He actually waited for Crawford. And that's what makes it so bad, in my opinion. That's why I'm so pissed off. The fact that he actually waited until Crawford was a free agent, where the fight actually... Listen, after the Crawford and Porter fight, yeah, when Crawford left Bob Arum, at that particular point in time, that's when this fight was most possible to happen in the last 5 years. The fight's never been more able to happen. And it was at that point, Errol Spence, who was also had no fight, ran off and made the UGAS fight in record time. It's embarrassing. That's what you call funny style behaviour. Zesty behaviour. And now you got all these goofy LDBC types talking about how it's wrong that we're not back. One guy was, oh man, you gotta black the culture. Oh yo man, y'all out of order. We gotta back Errol Spence. We ain't gotta do shit. Back Errol Spence. Errol Spence got to fight who we wanted to see him fight. I'm sick of these fighters fighting fights that aren't relevant. And like I said before, I got no problem with Spence circling back after he's beat Crawford. Yeah, UGAS ain't going nowhere. That's what I don't get. These bum. Listen, Spence. Yeah, and this goes for all of the other champions out there. The whole world, yeah, is back to front these days, meaning that people are desperate and super duper quick to get bum fights locked in. That's back to front. You should be casual about the bum fights. I swear to God, yeah, back in the day, that's how it used to be. People didn't rush to fight bums. The big fights got done quickly. The big fights got done, yeah, and then bum fights just came and went. That's how it's supposed to be. These days, the bum fights get locked in. The bum fights are consistently there every time, and the great fights don't happen. Happen once a blue moon. It's all back to front. It's mad. And now and what gets me is, one thing, we understand why the fighters do it. But it's a whole different shtick when you got fans actually gassing up these actions, actually telling me that we must support this like it's rational. It's a madness. So yeah, boycotts Team Spence, LDBC, you're down bad. A lot of you are. You're muppets. Goofy looking asses. Yeah?